So welcome back to my channel. Thank you ever so much for checking this video out, and hello if you are new. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Ghost's brand new album and their next step towards world domination in the form of Impera. I'll be looking at the good, the bad, the interesting, and then at the end of the video, we'll be summing up all of my points. And then it's over to you, the viewer, to check out the album when it's released on the 11th of March, and also let me know what you think of the video in the comments below. Other than that, let's dive right into Impera. So if you're not familiar with Ghost, basically they're a band that started off as kind of a doom metal outfit, but then slowly but surely started to incorporate even more elements of like AOR from 70s, 80s. So Ghost has very much kind of been about the idea of aesthetic, but at the end of the day, you can have as many bits of makeup as you want, and you know, the idea of this kind of almost cult fandom that they have, but you can't really do it without the songs. And throughout the years, they've just been getting better and better at their songwriting craft, really. So now, 4 years after Prequel, we return to the world of Ghost. So we've left the world of the Dark Ages and the plagues behind, and now we're looking at the Victorian era. Impera looks at the idea of the destruction, but also the rebuilding of civilizations, and kind of uses this kind of focus in many different ways throughout the record. And after a quick Google of what Impera, the title, actually means in Latin, it basically means command, rule, so it's very much within that sort of idea. Sonically, I think this record is very much focused in that sort of period between either the 70s, 80s, or, you know, Spillways in particular as a track really stood out for me. Now, of course, Ghost have always been a band with a lot of bombast, but I think that Impera really does have that sense of rock opera, you know, I'm talking kind of Queen level of theatricality, particularly with the introduction of Imperium into Cohesion. There's a real sense of that kind of sense of theatre, really, but I know that's always been kind of part of Ghost's idea, but it's really pushed to the forefront in more of a rock aesthetic. There's also a later section in the album called Darkness in the Heart of My Love, which I think was like destined to be a lighter moment. Musically though, I think that Ghost have really opted for a big focus on chorus, even more so than they have in the past. And you've got tracks which are like Spillways and Hunter's Moon, which came out last year, which is a great example of just how simple a chorus can be. And I think, you know, particularly with lyrics, he's kind of focusing on repeating certain sections of the chorus, you know, like maybe in the pre-chorus and things like that, so it really gets ingrained in your memory. But I also think that, you know, for those people who were kind of, and I was kind of one of these people actually, worried about sort of like losing the metal aesthetic, like there's definitely a real sense of metal. I think that guitars are really bolstered to the front of this album, and that's both rhythmically and in a lead sense as well. Harmonies are also really important, I think, and really help with that storytelling aspect, particularly with the sort of bookend of Imperium and Respite on the Spitalfields, who have the same kind of really huge intro, I guess. It's just really epic, and you can imagine this sort of thing coming on the speakers before the band come out, and it's just going to be huge. And where it comes to solos, I think what makes Ghost's guitar solos so great is the fact that they always really inject a sense of energy into, you know, the song, but they also can completely change a melody on its head. You know, like a key change, for example, is always quite well suited to one of their guitar solos, and Darkness at the Heart of My Love is a great example of that. You know, it's that classic rock ballad solo in the middle to really kind of drive you home. And as I mentioned, you know, rhythmically, a lot of these vocal lines are really in the same patterns as the guitar. So Call Me Little Sunshine is a great example of that. It's very simplistic, hits hard, but is really easily memorable. Now, as I mentioned, there's definitely more of a metal edge on this record, and there's tracks like Watcher in the Sky, which, even though it's basically just two riffs, the main riff is so good that you just want to hear it over and over again. It's got that real sort of like fist pumping kind of feel to it. I also think it's worth mentioning about the interlude of Dominion. It has a real kind of presence to it. It's bang midway through the album, and this is where kind of the perspective sort of shifts in the record, but it's got almost like a Bach sense to it. It just reaffirms this idea of the Emperor and this sense of power, I think. The production on this album is absolutely brilliant as well. Everything is really nicely clean. You can hear lots of different things. It sounds completely different if you listen to it on big speakers or your headphones. But also, I really like some of the vocal effects that were going on with Tobias's voice. I think it's really, really cool. So, in terms of the bad, the only thing I could think of is that the record is very front-loaded for me personally. It's after Darkness at the Heart of My Love where, for me, things get just a little bit forgettable, like Griftwood and Respite on the Spitalfields. They're very interesting tracks, but I think when you look at the kind of quality that's come before it, they don't quite hit that sort of same stride. But overall, I think it's one of the most cohesive records that Ghost have released. I also thought what was really cool is that the 20s kind of real melody is almost like a metally rock reggaeton kind of beat, which is really different. It just makes it a little bit more funky, but very much kind of quintessentially Ghost at the same time. We'll be singing in a rain of pennies in the 20s. We'll be soaring in the skies of bevies in the 20s. Impera capitalizes on all of the elements that we've come to know from Ghost and then bolsters them up even more. This is probably the most cinematic record they've done, and I cannot wait to see how these tracks go down in a live setting, because they were literally written to have huge 20,000 people strong sing-alongs. But even though the album does kind of fall by the wayside a little bit towards the end, it's not enough to really distract from just how brilliant this record is, and potentially their most comprehensive, cohesive piece of music to date. So what did you think of this video? I hope you enjoyed it. It'd be great if you did, so hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be coming back next week with another album review, but make sure that you check out my channel for all the interviews and other old album reviews I've done. Other than that, take care, and I'll see you very, very soon.